I want to thank my viewers. I see the subscribers keep growing, and I see many of us keep the peace. So let's call on keeping the peace with the energy in this channel. All malefic magic backfires, and of course, death instead of torture. Back to sender, do not involve families or lineages or all that crap. And we got ascendant 0 degrees Sagittarius, Jupiter, midheaven 9 degrees Virgo with Mercury retrograde, and we know Mercury is retrograde, but I still do this video. Jupiter here in the 7th, 15 degrees Gemini, and lot of a fortune on the degree of 22 degree, assassination degree. Mars, it's a Mars day, Mars hour, so we can call and give reverence to God Ares. I saw beautiful Igbo war dances today, and I did some attempts to do this. Yes, I don't do this live because that would be cultural appropriation, but I suggest you, it's very good for fertility, this type of moves, I know from belly dance, and is very good for your energy, for your Mars energy. Personally, I feel like I don't really want to fight with everyone after that. So they're supposed to be war dance, but I kind of feel it balances the energy. So you can try to watch this, and I challenge you to practice this at home, okay? And you can give it dedicated this to God Ares, which is God of War. But I am talking about genuine God of War, not God of Mein Kampf and perpetual war and all that thing. Has nothing to do with Mars or with Ares. There's actually inversion. And Mars here on the 11th degree, so degree of suicide, but also electricity, electrocution, and the power of lightning and thunder, okay? Which is more correct way, yes, to use it. Moon, 7 degree Virgo, okay, here in the 10th house, and Sun in Leo. Okay, I know some people did Sun in Leo talismans. Venus conjuncted Regulus yesterday, so glory and being happy in each other's happiness is appropriate manifestation for that. Now the topic for today is, can you use astrology, okay, for profiling? So first of all, for those of you who do not know what profiling is, yes, profiling is basically a method, that's what they say it is, it's a method to recognize people by their body language, the mannerisms, clothing, and so on, and to try to find out who can be dangerous, who can do like bombing or attack. And so, because you're not going to check each and every person that's coming to the airport with the most security and so on, then people who do profiling, I live in Israel, and Israel, of course, did that. And there were many questions, do they do that? Do they not do that? Now I want to talk about another layer of profiling. And yes, you understand that, of course, it doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work. The only thing that works is when there is surveillance, such as Vault 7. Now Starlink is having infrastructure that could be used for global surveillance. And so profiling can be a good excuse for lower rank people that work for security to target at this person or target at that person, okay? And this is basically intelligence work. When the person who bought, the person who stops the person who's targeted, none of them knows if they are going to be stopped, if it is a drill, if they're actually supposed to do something, and so on and so forth. So yes, this is practiced, and you see police, it focuses on reports like fines that they get from people, because this brings money, and unless there's very unusual things happen, they would not focus so much on the profiling, because this is global, okay? What we call terror is global, and it infiltrates the intelligences. And so profiling is actually, first of all, just before we touch on astrology, profiling is actually not what we think it is. And so this is something important to understand. Now let's talk about astrology, because as we now see this increasing situation in the world and all the many dangers people are exposed to, Pluto is finishing up with Capricorn, where the keyword is gasping. But we find out that a lot of the people, we thought, oh, this person is what they call narcissistic or borderline or whatnot, or this person is doing this, is doing that. Very likely this person is a targeted individual that has a couple of compartments, and one of the hypnotics is to do such things, and they either are intelligence or a public figure, and because those programmings infiltrate, okay, all society, then we ran into a lot of those, and that could be someone you're dating, that could be your boss, and the programming is basically interfering with the sexual energy. I want you to listen to Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivors and Expandable Children Project Survivors. This will help you to understand the better. Okay, if you understand that all the public figures are basically grown, the children they didn't manage to assassinate, but they were supposed to be child assassins and so on, then you understand the grown person like that, because the way the mix with the energy of the person is by trauma, so sexual trauma, electrocution, so that they will forget, programming, and much more, and they try to pick the people by bloodline, and recruit them also from afar, okay? And so, yes, in Netherlands, I'm half Dutch, in Netherlands, apparently Rabobank is just keeps popping up, whether it's from Joris Demming, from Lars, or Mama versus Mafia, okay, ex-PFDA politician that was married to Rabobank senior employee there, and I guess that's how she got into politics, but she got out. Or even Van Meijeren, that is wanted to speak against the satanic ritual abuse, but is also cloned himself, and I guess that's how he know the topic. Now Rutte, we've seen, yes, I don't know who is Peter Rabbit Hole, but I think there is only one Peter Rabbit Hole that okay. So we see, I wasn't expecting this to all like concentrate through Rabobank, and I don't think other banks are bulletproof of involvement to this. But this is a bigger understanding of what people would date someone, and then they would have weird behaviors, and then the therapist wouldn't know what is. Of course, he wouldn't know because he's monarch too. Okay, so he wouldn't know. Okay, when my therapist heard, my psychologist heard about narcissistic abuse and so on, he was like very curious. What is this? What is that? And then, yes, he started to torture me because he understands what I know, and he would have dreams. We have infiltrated my dreams, so he would have dreams like Alice in Wonderland. At first, I thought this is funny. It's like disorienting, and I'm like, oh, his consciousness is really interesting. He was MK Ultra, okay, and so was Peter, and so was everybody else. If this is intelligible to you, then please watch MK Ultra, Monarch, Alice in Wonderland, Mama versus Mafia, and you will understand a lot. To me, that was intelligible. I was like, oh, those narcissistic people, that's that. Okay, now I get why they are like that. This interferes with the sexual energy, so it's very difficult for them, unless it's through an altar, that they may have altar. They're supposed to have intimate relations, and then you can have some good sex with this altar. And I mean loving, intimate and so on. But then there are other altars, and that interferes with the intimate relationships, the sexuality. It bothers the person themselves, but because it's changing, okay, or the personality is difficult, and because the therapists themselves are monarch, then they cannot go to therapy. You have to speak with other survivors and try and error to deprogram yourself and to get what's right, okay? Just so you know, for psychosis, the best solution is housing first, independently of ability to work, because this is root chakra. When a person connects with root chakra, they can reconnect with the intuition, because they try to interfere the intuition when you do that, and to believe of what they say. So if a person speaks in a way that sounds intelligible to you, you need to find the patterns in what they say. I can tell you the most accurate predictions, and I'm an astrologer, and I experimented in channeling and so on. But the most accurate predictions I got as to what's happening in the world was from a person who was in mental hospital, diagnosed with schizophrenia. When we greeted, he said, "You look 200 years old." I said, "Thank you very much." And he said, "No, you are a young soul." I don't know. But but that person told me exactly for what's going on, and I understood from his words that he was a targeted child for medical experiments, and then they drug him. I asked if the antipsychotics, okay, but they have pyramidal and the extra pyramidal, which you understand is a pyramid scheme, but is also the occult, what they call treatment for psychosis or whatnot. This meant to kill you, okay, to silence you, not to make you healthy. Um, and he told me, yeah, I come back to the body part, I go up again because this trauma needs to be released. So in a good place, he would be first given housing independently of ability to work, and the people would begin to believe of what he said, try to see. Okay, and once told me when I was angry, and he said, the feminists, they're angry, are sending knives to me, and I was like, okay, I understand he feels my energy and is sharp. So he feels it physically like knives. Okay, he was not imagining, he was just sensitive to frequency and energy. Of course, we had to take, space. And I was indeed suspicious. Okay, so you have to be very honest with yourself when you speak to people that deal with what you call psychosis. Most of them targeted individuals. Why is this so important? All of this, before I even touch on astrology, because you have to understand the ontological unit. You have to understand what is the unit that I'm looking at when I'm asking a question. Okay, you want to look at profiling. Can I use astrology to tell if this person is evil and that person is evil? What is that person is evil? What is evil? Okay, you have people that have been programmed and they work more like computer. Yes, and they have feelings. They're human beings, right? And we are human beings. That being said, they also have personalities that were meant to assassinate, to rape, to torture, to scare people, and also to commit suicide. Okay, you see how Mars here? Okay, to self-destruct. And they were programming people way before they were programming robots. And this is something you must, and when I say way before, I mean children were born in 1948, okay? Hans Medma, KLM pilot, that his nationality was taken from him. And you must understand the people who tell this person to go to hospital and be tortured and to this and to that, they themselves went through this torture. Now they're in position where they have to do this, or off with their head. They have to assassinate everyone around them so that they will stay. Otherwise, it's not okay. And if you want to look politics, then you understand, let's say if Adolf Hitler indeed died from cyanide, then he had cyanide. To get the cyanide, because these are all death cults, to get the cyanide, you needed to comply and you need to be useful to the degree that Hitler was useful to the mission of depopulation. And even though he wanted to he arrested the Baron Rothschild, okay, perhaps there was useful for internal intrigues within whether it was Rosicrucians or Vatican or so on. And Hitler was very useful because it gave incentive to start war, and Hitler was okay with the war, total loss, but he got access to cyanide, while Joseph Stalin had to die from disease, or maybe it was poisoned. If he was poisoned, it's very likely something like Opus Dei, where they poisoned the person. These are all dead cults, and right from the very recruitment, okay, even Masons, okay, very recruitment. Then first stage, they tell you to go naked and trust the lodge or something like this. And where you ask why naked, why this? Or because this you are free. It shows you are free. And so now it's true that for many people who, let's say, are homosexuals, okay, that in those lodges, perhaps they could have sex and not to be judged. But this was not in willing consent, this was not respectful for them. And so it's one of the reasons, unfortunately, that LGBTQ is associated with a pedophilia until today. They try to induce hermaphrodites. This, I think, Mama versus Mafia. But the person who told me first was the person that was diagnosed with, this person is total cuckoo, total loss, very sensitive to frequencies. The nurses knew he's very sensitive to frequencies, but what he says, what is this reality, this dimension, that dimension, erase polarity, all these things I know before Gigi Young, before it was anybody who talk about this, from this person was mental hospital and drugged, so he wouldn't speak, but he was constantly speaking like a child, and for describing of what happened to him. And I understood from within the layers that was very likely targeted as child. A doctor abused him sexually, gave him trauma, and he began to try and see what happened to him, and he was exposed to things, because when you get these traumas, and very likely he didn't forget, and that's why he was in hospital, because what you're supposed to do is you don't remember what happens. You don't remember, and then it's no problem, because you don't know what is happening, okay? For the rape you, whether you assassinated, whether this, whether that, you don't remember. But when you begin to remember, then they put you in all kinds of tortures, and one of the tortures is psychiatric pills. And everybody that would complain of a narcissistic abuse, of violence, domestic violence, because you were exposed to how violence is created, they wanted you to be silent so that you wouldn't understand. Because if they gave you housing first and started to believe you, you would begin to connect the dots. But with Pluto in Capricorn, okay, and this is important because you wouldn't understand anything I have to say to you astrologically before this introduction. With Pluto in Capricorn, the gaslighting of the pyramid, of within the pyramid, now we go to the gaslight outside the pyramid, which is another rabbit hole, but within the pyramid, this gaslighting was exposed, and people began, you want to date a man, you think you learn, you get this course about relationship, that course about relationship, all the people, very smart people, tell you, okay, don't think too much, men, don't speak in omens, ask what you want to ask, they will tell you direct answer. If you allow them, then they will not lie to you. And then you got a person that speaks with you like code names, and you're like, but that's not in the book. Why is my man is malfunctioning? I learned how to operate my man, and he's malfunctioning. Okay, or for when you women are concerned about their weight, you say what the most body type, the most searched body types, and these are all courses. Yes, I paid for, but people who studied this. So people, men not targeted by the cult, so they would look usually for body type, a bit more like Marilyn Monroe. She was not a skinny girl, you understand. And so for many women are worried about their bodies. It's like, no, this is exactly what they're looking for. Don't lose no weight, and so on. And then you have a man that wants body like child, body like this or like that. It's like first attracted, one of the alters attracted, then come another alter and try to shake your confidence in your body. It's like, but you were attracted to my body. I don't understand. Okay, and that man is your psychologist. Okay, so you have to see what you think. Okay, I learned about how to appropriately communicate with other sex, so what I want, and this and that, and communicate my needs, and so on. But your man is malfunctioning. So what is happening, okay? And people began to see, oh, my woman is malfunctioning, okay? Alone, women are not bitches that try to extort you, but they want to be loved, they want to be listened to, yes, or not to make a fuss when they are nervous, but don't to be cold to them either. I don't know, whatever they teach you there, if you were lucky enough to fall on a good course, because men were more tricked in these situations. They didn't have good information for men for a while. And so on. And then you see, I go for my life mission, for my goal, I develop myself, for my philosophy, my this, my that, and then I meet women, they just try to extort me. Why is this happening? Okay, because you don't meet women, you meet monarchs. Okay, you meet MK Ultra, you meet altars, you meet all these people who targeted individuals, and perhaps you make something of your life. So now, good morning. They either want to recruit you or dismantle you. And one of the ways to do this is something very known in Netherlands, is Loverboy, but it's also Lovergirl. And this is kind of erotic spies that are sent to extort. And if you're not a pedophile, okay, so they don't send a child, and that's basically how it works, okay? And this is why people began to see, okay, I'm trying to invest in my relationship. I try to invest in my career. Why do these things not work? And then they try to ask themselves that you look for another paradigm, but you also already know, you also already understand that these things of what they do is not correct for having good sex, good health, okay, cardiovascular, nervous system health, okay, sexual health, relational health, a good attachment pattern, okay, if you understand that these things are operating differently, and you look, why is that, well, you try to get out of that, and then your therapist is like that, this like that, that like that, and it's not about gender, okay, it's all the genders, and you begin to be exposed to more and more information about this, and the dots begin to connect, okay, the financial system, the military system, there's no military, there's no national military, never was, there's no nation states, never were, and so on. And then, okay, so it's like you go deeper down the rabbit hole, and you begin to understand for how the system works. Now, if you have this information, yes, then yes, you could look at the chart, and I accidentally delineated somebody that was monarch, yes, Peter, because he had a Pluto 29-degree Leo, and I said about countries, I said, well, the Pluto in Leo's countries are hidden monarchies, and then I heard the interference. I said, don't me, if you saw this video, that Peter was person, okay? He was exposing for the monarchy, yes, but yes, he was also MK Ultra Mason, very likely 33 or about to be 33, because he said, put to his hand, that he was going to live to 100 or be centurion. And we know what this entails. And so, yes, so that's the monarchy. MK Ultra is the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, and what they do, they try to change for the timelines. So then you see one altar, then there are more altars. So of course it's very easy to expose something that somebody maybe remembers, maybe don't remember what they did or how deeply they involved. And when you look at it as a conglomerate, okay, of altars, and you understand that there is programming, that there is many things that come, okay, to this, it's very easy to expose a person. And so they extorted these people, and that's how very likely he got extorted to defend the Supreme Court Judge Joris Demink. I don't know how deeper down the rabbit hole, okay, to his right, it should be said that he tried to look into a case of where he didn't want the wrong murderer to be sent to prison, yes, and of course he was immediately targeted and to sent to prison for murder of children and so on, and they took in a child with the same name, Petrce Ort, okay, Petrce and Petrce, Peters, Petrce, and raped, tortured, electrocuted, murdered him in a car with the omens, okay, car driving through JFK Street and then a Churchill Street in a Purmerend in Netherlands. It was a very big case in 1982, and it was a big symbol. Okay, it's like you look into these things. Here, another child is killed, and not only that, the brother of the child committed suicide. And this is what the book A Murder Costs More Life, which Peter defined as his greatest book. So we must understand that it's not one personality and not one altar, but the many altars. And the minute you look into that, of course, they try to super target you and the family. Okay, and this is why I think about the foundation. They do not accept channelings or astrological readings, tips for cold cases. I believe they're blocked in that sense. And also, before we point the finger of blame, we need to understand that this is programming, and what we want is to dismantle the praxis of expandable children and the praxis of such programming, and create a system that allows for life, that celebrates life, okay, not memento mori, and not death cult, where you have to think about your death and be extorted by fear, okay, and tend to that. And this is very important. Yes, the reason I mentioned Peter right now, mid-heaven, Saturn going over his mid-heaven, Rahu, where his moon was. So I guess information is going to pop up, and I want to give a good framework for that, because it's very easy to say, but this person, and so on and so on, and do it. The personnel will not tend to actual expandable children. You will not save children by just offing heads, okay? You have to really dismantle the problem, to listen to survivors, to bridge in the gaps, and to find a way to deprogram without the person to, let's say the case for the Olympic Van something, Helder, I don't want to say the wrong name, because, okay, 2016, raped a 12-year-old child, very likely expandable. So you do not get to these positions if you don't cooperate with the cult. And then now he's in the Olympics and became controversial discussion. But you have to understand, okay, they are all expendable children grown. It's the children that didn't manage to murder, basically, that we see compete in the Olympics or in any public position. And yes, we need to tend to expandable children project and for dismantle that and creative way, so they will not continue to rape and so on. So this is a real issue. It's not a Dutch issue. It's not an Israeli issue. It's a global issue, and people find it very difficult to handle. That this was the person that looked into the cold cases that nobody looked at, and genuinely, okay, well, the authors that looked into that genuinely wanted to solve that case. Or your favorite singer that you're listening to about independence and so on, and breaking free from sexual trauma and blah, blah, blah. The psychologist, okay, that you go to, the person who believed you when nobody believed you, okay, the people that are making decisions that you don't see, about the banks and so on, and also normal people. You think normal, casual people, your colleagues, your this, your that. That's the whole point of this intelligence, the global intelligence, and that is why people begin to ask themselves, can I use astrology for profiling? No. Okay, because if I know a person is monarch, I will see. I knew that I'm going to talk about monarch project when I talked about Mercury retrograde with crossing the sun in Leo and was the new moon in Leo and so on. Then I knew I'm going to talk about, this is good for the program in monarch. I didn't know that it's connected with Alice in Wonderland. Okay. And I got the symbols and I got the signs, and I'm like, why am I getting rabbit, like rabbit teeth, rabbit. What's this rabbit? I'm like, oh, okay. But, and also connecting that many people, I thought, okay, what is this programming this person have? The cult. Yes, I was targeted in 2017 because I didn't want to put too much. Okay, if when you do heuristics, okay, then there is the principle of dosage. Just like in therapy, okay, there's a dosage, okay? Let's say you want to get right with someone, okay? There's dosage. I didn't want to put too much dosage on a person that I saw was entrapped in cult and entrapped by lineage, okay, of not ancestors, but the people in academia. And I didn't want to put too much dosage because I understand it's not about offing his head or coming from vengeance. It's about tending to the fact that these are the programmings, and sometimes you sit with sexual harassment, but I saw that his sexual energy is not good. That's why he's doing that. So there's something trauma from the trauma track, he becomes like programmed. It triggers his programming altar, but I didn't know to name it in that way. And I didn't want to do misjustice to him. And so I spoke about the cult, and I tried to warn and to get through to something. Of course, he got very mad and very frightened, and I had no idea to know why. Okay, yes, you can imagine that he probably did not see me as just a woman who does not hide her femininity when she is presenting herself in public, but very likely was afraid that something else is going on here, and then the fear activates the programmer persona, which is going against him. And then they have persona that is suicide, okay, persona, assassination persona, and suicide persona, and that's very difficult, okay. And then my point is not to off with his head, but actually to solve the issue. And I also understand that, let's say let's say they fired him, treated him with dignity, I don't know, fine. They would put the next person is exactly like that. So it's the same with your leaders, it's the same with your football players, it's the same with the lawyers that represent them, it's the same with the lawyers that don't represent them. And this is also important to understand. So if I know, then I can see the astrological symbols, okay? For example, right now, lot of fortune, 22 degrees Sag, so children, assassins. Jupiter with the Mercury retrograde, okay? Child traffic, child trade, banking, rob a bank, assassins, the duality, okay, the programming, okay? But if I don't know that, I wouldn't see that. And so I cannot say to you if a person programmed or not programmed. And the Mars 11th, the altars that are a self-destruction, okay, it's a self-assassination. Yes, Sun in Leo, still in good aspect with this Mars. So we talk about the Monarch project, and I'm like, oh, Monarch, Alice in Wonderland, which is a story, it's a fairy tale story, which is very compatible with Sun, okay? And they program through stories. It's also the power of story. We talk about healing, the power of story. But there are many things that I'm going to touch, and I'm going to make separate video for all the good things and all the good ways you can use astrology to invite and manifest correct information for deprogramming, setting intention, ask for access to life, access to making good decision, access because you have to access these compartments, accessing and so on. And decouple is something I learned from Imagination podcast, which is a good resource. I know that she has this Red Cross picture with the two lightning things. It looks like, I don't know, but the testimonials are good, and the Substack is good, and that's it. Okay, so we should be taking use of the resources that we have to dismantle this. And we also understand that the people who are deprogramming themselves, that they come from within the cult. It's very intricate. Again, they were programming people way before they were programming robots. Okay, the Deming, Joris Deming, exploded in 1973, but you understand, if Hans Amendma was born in 1949, and he was just, I think, teenager, yes, when he was introduced, coercefully introduced to his programmed wife, okay, and so was hurt a lot by her and was sterilized, and I have, yes, a large portion of my ancestry from Netherlands, and the issue of sterilization is like, whoa, it's ringing huge bells. More questions than answers, even in my own lineage, and I tended to it by tending to these topics in my own lineage, and so on. So there are many things that are involved with this, and this is why astrology is not, just to read the chart does not suffice for you to say, I can do profiling with this. No, you cannot, because this chart can mean many things, and you need to have the background information to understand what are you delineating. Okay, it is not gatekeeping, because I don't do profiling as well. I don't do profiling. I don't look at charts of people to see this person is that character, that character. There's so many things. If you look at just cookbook, okay, I'm having a son, the samsha, I don't know, period in my life, Vedically, and so I have Sun opposite Pluto, Sun square Pluto, hard aspect between Sun and Pluto showing up in my life, but also the trines and the sextiles. And I'm working a lot on, okay, my shine, my confidence, a father figure, but also royal things that I had no idea. So I'm not royal bloodline or anything like that, as far as I know. But yes, I understand more things that came in my life in regards to that. And I can tell you, just the hard aspect Pluto Sun. You could see couples that have Pluto opposite Sun. They say, I have my husband Pluto opposite Sun, but I would never do the conjunction. Okay, or people that would tell you, I have this, one thing that even surprised me, Lada Duncheva, and I want to buy this course. She has, now is good discount. Tell that you come from me, because I won't even. Okay, so she has a great course about the moon compatibility that she learned from Ernst Wilhelm. And this is a course where she said she has a third marriage, very successful, and she has Rahu in the 7th. She says, it's not me delineating. Yes, it's her delineation of her chart. And so she didn't have good marriage, didn't have good marriage, or she thought she was in a blessed marriage, all the synastry was great, everything was great, but then she came to assassinated Nikola Stojanovic, and he said to her, you're going to divorce this man, and you're going to have a great successful marriage for your third marriage, and be happy with this man. She said, there's no way. But that's what happened. And so she looked at her husband's, the successful marriage, and said, how come? And the most painful thing she said to me was, we have Mars square Mars. And I'm like, I just got acknowledged with the power of Mars square Mars, and how we emasculate each other, and this and that. Just said, me and my husband, we got Mars square Mars. We don't fight. Why? Because of the moon nakshatras. Okay? And the moon nakshatras, the compatibility of the moon nakshatras, is something that you learn. So this is a great teaching of, yes, relationship. But why am I saying that? Because every time you have something new, old, new, coming from somewhere, there is the D9, which also Lada talked about, okay, the Navamsha chart, which is kind of like opening up your 9th house. And for some people, that's the thing, okay? And there are some cases where you wouldn't think that would work, and that works. Okay, why does it work? It's a mystery. And so I want to honor the mystery in astrology and say, when you want to do profiling with astrology, yes, if you come to me and you have hard aspect, okay, Sun Pluto hard aspect, it can give physical violence. I don't know what's your case, but then there are other people that say, I have it with my husband, but I would never do the conjunction. I don't know what to say, okay? And I've been doing this for a decade, on and off, looking at it a decade, okay? So it's also changing for how people deal with something. I love to talk about outer planets as what you came here to do, okay? If you remember my Corvin episode about the Pluto square Saturn, which is change of a structure in the society, or hidden change of structures through crisis. Yes, and the full Corvin is with Uranus, Moon, amiable aspects. Okay, so that's something I came up with, but Sun, Pluto. Okay, it's about basically dealing with your shine or authenticity as to your personality, or accepting your radical self, and to be confident even if you were programmed, even if MK Ultra, even if, okay, that can be one of the things within this context that we are dealing with. Learning to accept your shine, and then with the sextile or a trine, it's no problem. Okay, what you're afraid about yourself, but what if you're afraid about yourself, that you have an altar that assassinated, raped, electrocuted, and tortured children? And there's another altar that you were tortured, but you don't have access to this altar. So now I have one part of the picture, but you don't have a whole part of the picture. And then you say, okay, I radically accept myself. What do I do now? I don't know for what to tell you. This is why this is a hard aspect. Okay, and then it's the question of how do we radically treat with dignity people, even in situations where you say this is a monster. Yes, but how do we treat this person with dignity so that the programming of the Übermensch, but the Übermensch is a code name, it's like the market you, it's bad marketing, okay? And I was thinking about it with Lilith in Libra. Transactional relationship, such a misleading term. Transactional relationship, you think it's that you give me this, I give you that, and we meet our needs that way. But in purely transactional relationships, you don't actually get to meet your needs. That's why people are get fucked up with them. And so it rarely happens if people have good purely transactional relationships that actually get to meet their needs. Never. So this is bad business, but it's also bad relationships. And the same thing when you think about the Übermensch, okay, there's nothing Übermensch if you have altars that this altar assassinated, this altar did this, and now when they play with the identities, it's getting more and more difficult. This is why you gotta listen to survivors and see what works for you, because it's a trial and error to decouple, to deprogram, and so on and so forth. That's something I began to identify in 2016, 2017, and how it affects our sciences, because I came in academia, but also army and state, and you would be surprised is when did they target me? Only when I could say everything that I wanted to say about everyone, and people would be like trying to coerce me, to seduce me, to keep my mouth shut. And I'm like, no, I have to heal. I have to speak and be validated, because I knew that about holistic medicine back then. I was looking to philosophy of the medicines at the time. And so, yes, I have a big powerhouse called Pluto retrograde in Scorpio, 0 degree in the 9th house with Saturn, with 22 retrograde Mars. That's unequitable, it's, and although it does move, I literally said, although it does move, back in 2017, 2016, I got the Moon square Aries, which means that I make more predictions than I understand, which is okay, because that's why I speak. I got a Mercury in Aries, so I'm impulsive, but there's a limit even to that. And then the Moon Aries is kind of like, it's a crisis, and I say it anyway, because I have to stay in my body. Okay, truth, the power of truth. And so that was when things went really bizarre. But the information's got to me, so I got to know that for psychosis, you do housing first, and you actually believe the person, and then they heal without the pyramidal or the extra pyramidal or the chips or the okay. For me, chips is something I ate with fish in Enkhuizen, um, and that beats Nederland for me. Okay. All my love to Elon. All my love to Elon, okay? And yes, D-Day, absolutely, but Elon is also expendable child grown. Somebody said this is the richest slave in human history. Yes, but I'd like to yes, give reverence to the fact that I have privilege that I was born outside of that, and he was born inside of that. So I first of all stay humble. And that is also something we need. And so I think, yes, to stay humble and to talk, to listen to survivors' testimonials would do more for you than astrology when it comes to diagnosing this person, who is this person, how is this person, and so on. Also do research into your chart. This is not easy, not easy. Peter Astrosik just uploaded the many lots for that they use, and lots in astrology is like points in your chart that when they are activated, something either fated happens or can happen. And I looked at certain things in my chart, and I'm like, it was not always nice to see, but it gives you a picture. Like maybe I managed to antidote that with magic. Okay, maybe I buy a lattice course and I have something nice. Okay, maybe I find compatible moon with whom I'm happy anyway. Okay, so that maybe, I don't know. But this is important because then you don't blame for the other person. You understand that this is the X, this is the person that plays the X in that equation called my life. And so I have to tend to that equation more so than to that person. And through that person, okay, we will learn about your life. There are many things to assist in that, but I also want to tell you a story. I had a client that was coming to me for readings when I just did composite readings, small readings, okay, small price and everything. And it was very good for like second house Mercury, small reading, small product, get it going and easy. And she really liked for my readings and went through a good process with that. And then she encountered the man. She said, I just want your approval. This is it for me. I like this person. And they had the Mars square Pluto. And I'm like, but that I couldn't say it in so many words. So I said, well, you have to have separate houses, separate this, separate that, separate economy, and so on. Because with Pluto, you want to merge. And Mars, yes, it's a sex drive, it's a bloodline. It's very intimate and very raw as well. It's very sexy, but it's crisis aspect. Okay? And so you want to stay distinct financially, spiritually, economically, and so on. But then she told me, this is the one. This is the one for me. Okay, she just came for me for reading and everything, but I said, this is the one for me. And so we went through this deep process, and I guess this deep process was preparing her for to meet this person with this aspect. And now you have to work with it. Okay, but some people can work with it easier than others. If they would still, as couple, need to change the economy. This is the outer planet work, what you came to do together to change the economy so that they will have win-win in the relationship. Now, if you come to me and you ask about the profile, the person, this or that, I also have to say, but this information that I have came through the people through which I was able to receive this information. And it came through the chart from which I received so much that it was possible for me to stay in the light when I am exposed to the things that I am exposed. And going through a deep process, okay? And I started Spirit of Matter way before water expands upon cooling, Pettercher, and so on. I started Spirit of Matter, but the first chart that I did was the man who accompanied me for my entire degree, first and second. Didn't finish my second for obvious reasons. And that was Richard Feynman. And I addressed the fact that he was masquerading himself as students and using the skull techniques to communicate with women. But if women refused him, he said she's worse than a whore. Okay, something very bad was going on there, and I wasn't going to swipe it under the rug. This man, okay, after his passing, received a lot of a channeling, okay, about the pyramid and so on, but it was very difficult to understand. I was not even going through the directions where I could understand what he's trying to say, okay? But the pyramid I got before my studies. That's how I got my degrees. You tell a doctor, okay, I see triangles, and they say, okay, you're cuckoo, come. Okay, now I want studies. Oh, you want to climb up the pyramid? Okay, fine, we'll give you studies. And so that's how I got my degree. Okay, the Feynman didn't get to the war. He had to piss a psychiatrist off. So he said, what is this profession? What is this, that? Then the psychiatrist says, you're cuckoo. And then he was not recruited to the war. So you cannot say that we didn't gain anything from psychiatry. But it's also my due both to Feynman to clear that path, and also he died from cancer, and I also clear the path that we have cure for cancer. And I heard this from the doctors that are working with the doctors that found cure for cancer, and budget stopped abruptly. So you understood there's some problem here with wealth management, okay? You don't lose investors when you find a cure for cancer. And you think this is one case. This is running for decades. Richard Feynman died in the 80s of cancer, and he said in Caltech, and he said, with the 60s, he said, I'm sitting with great people that are working on the cures to diseases you didn't think you can cure. And I'm sitting with great people who are working on creating the disease that nobody can cure. This is Feynman in the 60s, the greatest whistleblowers, greatest atomic whistleblowers ever known. If you get what he said about fluoride, you understand what countries in Africa are now defluoridizing the water to build an A-bomb or an H-bomb, or I don't know what they call it now. That's Feynman. If I would ignore the fact that he did what he did with these girls, I would get bad karma, because I would be enabler of lies and I would not get to the truth. But this truth is important because we're at the verge of nuclear war unless we tend to expendable children, unless from the tribes to the monarchs we stop enslaving people, we stop creating child assassins, and we stop raping, electrocuting, like all that crap, and we acknowledge of what is what do you call it, feminine, masculine. It's not to piss off LGBTQ. You can be gender non-conforming. It's not the point, but the point is that this place for men is place for women, is place for gender non-conforming, and our genders do not conform with your medical welfare, and so on. Okay? But this is a part of the reverence that I do with the Feynman. That I founded this topic about cancer. He died from cancer. But I wouldn't get there if I wouldn't talk about the women. Okay? And these women that were programmed, so from his point of view as a man, he sees a woman, he says, it doesn't work if I treat her nicely. But then if I treat her like a maniac, then she suddenly is sleeping with me. Why? Because these girls are programmed. And then they programmed in such way that when that way you get their trust, and then you trigger these altars. This is why you were taught, and then you were taught, and now you think that about women. And Feynman was scientist, okay? So it's like, if this is worked like this, it's worked like this. So many men has it wrong. So many women have such wrong ideas about men. Men want bitches, men want this, men want that, men want that. But no, healthy sexually men wants you as you are. Maybe you learn how to pronounce. Okay, now I need you to listen. Now I need you to solve problem for me. Because usually if you talk, you say, what's the problem? How can I help you? And then you say, you don't listen to me. Okay, but that's pretty much it. Cis man, cis woman, that's pretty much it. Because there's not too much to mess with. But for this men that are programmed, yes, it's the various debugging that needs to be for them to have good sexual and intimate life, and for you to have, if they are into women, okay, they can be into men. That is also important to acknowledge and give place to, so they don't have to lie and get into marriages like, you know, Darren Hayes. That, yes, this is terrible and heartbreaking for people. Was nog? So we talked about the programming. We talked about what the truth is. Okay, so scientifically, cure for cancer exists. For terminally ill cancer, full remission, budget stopped. Billions of cases like that. But can I get them to talk? No. People assassinated. Okay. People, now everybody says Israel. Mossad, 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 Mossad. Did you know that Israeli, before they infiltrated Israel, Israeli intelligence, okay, I know there is not a before, but you understand what I'm talking about, okay? Local, found ways to interrogate people without psychological and or physical torture. And to get good information from these people. You know, people are eager to talk. I have all these things that I know. How do I know? Even mediumship, even this, even that. Okay? I try to channel Peter about his dad. It's like, this country is North Korea. And then he shows me how a system built and this and that, and how to use the camera to avoid with this child is this, with this child is that. Like, oh my God. Peter took picture for when he wanted Hollandier. He took picture from the bus of Hollandier. It was criminal, yes, but without any permission, he did that. But you have to do that. If you see a person with a child, I don't care what the laws in Europe. You take a fucking picture, and you approach. So this person, you're physically there, so this person can't mess too much. If this person try to run, you try to find something, and maybe you call the child, and maybe you call the people around and say, what's going on here? Get a lot of people involved, because if they take this child, that's not that with dignity there. That's the Peter I knew. There's another Peter. Okay? The people are eager to talk to you. Especially the people that hide information. They're eager to let it out. And also how you get people to go to intelligence. Okay, if you ask, well, how do you interrogate it? There's no problem. If you are of a pure heart, and you are of a kind intention, and you can vouch for the pure heart and for the kind intention, information comes to you. You don't even need to seek it. That's it. You have to treat people with dignity. It's only that way will you get truth. Otherwise, you don't get truth. We also have to be willing to listen and accept. Otherwise, you don't get truth. And all of these things I know because I genuinely try to tend to this topic of foreign expendable children. I understand this touch my heart. I understand this at the heart of economy. I understand this bothers me if I try to work or this or that. It's everywhere, touching everywhere. And I'm like, okay, it's not too much not to ask for that there would not be human sacrifice and that expendable children and willing consent to all genders. Not too much, it's the basis. So because I have this mindset, Truth comes to me, comes to me, comes to me, comes to me, comes to me. Draw it into me. This is how for the person. But if you cannot assure that, then you cannot interrogate, then you don't get the truth. No matter how much torture, no matter how much programming, no matter how much this, if they wanted you to get the truth, you understand. You don't have to get the truth out of people. People are eager to tell you the truth. That's intelligence. But did we ever do national security? No, but these intelligent people that discovered this method, are they still alive? I don't know. But these doctors that found the cure to cancer, how are they? How are they? Can they get the research done today? I don't know. What they did to Peter when he looked at before Petrucci already said, well, I see Supreme Court is putting people for murder of children in jail, but it's not the right person. Or when they put the drug cartels, what we know about drug cartels? Yes, it's drug cartels, it's horrible. If they do human trafficking, like sex trafficking, is horrid. But they have a code in jail, which is very strange, that they don't hurt children and don't hurt women. That's the code. And if you are like this, then they would, and this is the problem, because they would rape a person in jail who does this. And then what the judges, they would put the wrong person, they would put the drug cartel person on the murder of the children. So they would rape the drug cartel person, but they're not stupid. And then Peter wanted to attend to that. Then they took a child, kidnapped, raped, tortured. Now, what they did to Peter, we don't know. And you see them a couple of decades later defending Joris Deming. And things come out, of course things come out. Pluto, Neptune, okay, they change the signs, of course everything's come out. But you have to take a look at the picture. How many altars? Okay? So we talk about intelligence, so we talk about the medicine, or the soldiers. Of course, it's the easiest to start with the people you would either have so much empathy for that you cannot imagine. They don't look like this, okay? Or the bifurcate and take the people you absolutely have no empathy for. Yeah, this drug cartel person, he murdered so many people. They have this honor killing in their tribes. They're what they call the Moroccans, or the this, or the that, or the that, or the that. The Rabobank is not a Moroccan, okay? And so that's what's up. That's what's up. Okay, there is a Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, but that's not Islam. Nor is Baal Judaism. Why do you say Baal? Baal for husband in Hebrew. It's not Jewish. That means that the people that check if you're Jewish enough to get married, if they call you Baal, they're not Jewish. And don't get me started on Satan and Lucifer. Was a Satan. Satan is Saturn, the Lord of Karma. What's more important for the Lord of Karma? Brush your teeth every day. Not with fluoride. Do some oil pulling. If you can find actual oil. That's Saturn. Did you do oil pulling every day? Did you tend to what you need to tend to? That's Saturn. That's your Satan. Rest enough so you don't get overworked, so you don't get sick in your bones. That's Saturn. Connect with your ancestors, but also clear the lineage. You got Peter's in the lineage, you got this in the lineage, you got that, and we all got that in the lineage. My grandfather did not survive a Holocaust. No, because the good ones didn't make it. And this is all reverence. Because they're planning to put all of you in the situation where you either do these things, know that with dignity. Do you see drug cartels of cyanide? Why do they always have MDMA, ketamine, fentanyl? Where's the cyanide? Why don't we have drug cartels for cyanide? Who are the drug cartels for cyanide? Opus Dei, Vatican, the death cults. That's why with the first ranking, for the first training, say Memento Mori. Remember your death. Of course they did this. And I first tried to channel. He said, oh, you choose that? I said, what kind of death you would like to choose? Then you said, now we're going to take you to the action that you get that death. That's how they recruit people. Memento Mori. But you don't know because you think you're channeling. And then you make experiment to see, okay, that don't make sense. Okay, that don't make sense. I can steal food, but why would I steal that? It wouldn't change the world if I stole that. I need some more moves to change, to create actual change. That, it's like, what's this person? They got sovereignty. Yeah, I can see what you're coming to, want this, what that, find reasoning and so on. Yeah, it makes sense if I'm homeless and I don't know how many kilometers in the snow until the place that maybe has a voucher for me, maybe not. Of course, I would need to steal food. This makes sense, but why would I steal more than that? Clothes, gloves, yes. Like I need a glove, I need this. That makes sense. But to steal more than that, why? Why? Would it change the reality of the children that are dying in the gold mines if I stole a Rolex? No. No. And now you would be thinking, oh, they test for your character. No, they put you to psychosis, and then they create weird situations for you, like my psychologist did. Try to get you to be extorted through these situations. When they are the ones doing the offenses. But they're programmed. That's clear. If you look at the chart, what do you see here? Lot on 22 degrees. You know, most astrologers, if they didn't pass through the theory of Nikola Stoyanovich, they don't know 22 degrees. That's nothing. 11 degree, none of that. Then you know Nikola Stoyanovich, you know the degree. Okay. So something with assassination, fated, discussion, assassination, maybe beliefs around it because it's ruled by Jupiter, maybe even how they do it because it rules this and Mercury rules children. You don't get to child assassins from that unless you know that there exists such a thing as child assassins. I know an Israeli lawyer that wanted to send his children to jail. Really? What would they do in jail? You definitely have to do something with his children that they don't offend. what they do in jail. MK Ultra South. That's what's written on the walls in Beersheba City, South Israel. MK Ultra South. Ultra South. M. I said, what's that M? M. Then I saw that on Peter. I was like, oh, MK Ultra. Mason. 33 degree. Centurion. Then something got flopped. He had a kind personality in Genesis. Other personality was very sensitive to people. And once you have this, whether it's programmed or not programmed, once you have this in a person, it tends to slip. Then you could do a child assassin, you could do a torturer, you could do a rapist, you could do this, you could do that. But there's also that personality, it comes out. That's what got him. But if I don't know that, I just see here, maybe electrocution, maybe somebody's suicide, maybe young boy, Mercury retrograde, maybe something that happened, but we talked about Peter George, or the brother, Mars brother. But if I didn't know that, I wouldn't be able to connect. Okay? And if you don't have the grid theory, Mars is in Gemini, be careful of accidents, stupid things, technology, okay? Don't get overheated, about to square Saturn. Nothing, you get nothing. If that was a chart of a person. Okay, so you'd say around Mercury retrograde, they can communicate better than in Mercury direct. Okay, they might, the philosophy for they might be a little childish in the philosophy or have a kind of philosophy that's functional. That's it. Okay. That's it. You can't use just a chart to do profiling. And essentially, if whatever I told you what is profiling, what actually is profiling, you understand. And let me tell you another thing, why these cults, how come they fall apart? Because they target the people through the bloodline and they carry archaic beliefs. One is inbreeding. This is why they would both sterilize people to control the population within. Okay, and I'm not talking about stuff they do to others. It's like within their own people, tribes, bloodlines, ancestors, and so on. As the survivor said, they want to rape their own. Okay? And these beliefs across the bloodline are just so archaic that when somebody else does something, they're like, but it's not in the bloodline. They're not of a race that can do that. They were grown into those beliefs. And if you think African tribes are not grown into those beliefs, you're so wrong. This came from Africa. This came from the Inuit. This came from pre-Abrahamic. It's not Abrahamic religions what you see, because Abrahamic religions was God telling to Abram back then. Okay, God telling to Abram, take your child, so that Abram will understand he's communicating with the God, because that was child sacrifice. Okay, it was kind of like a witch doctor and a merchant. Then God says, enough with that. I don't need for this child. Stop. Now we established that I'm a God. I don't want human sacrifice. That was the revelation. Then Abraham says something. God says, what nothing? Something, animal. Okay, but eat that animal. Something with the body. What do you want with the body? I don't know, mutilation, something. You crazy? With genitals, God, no. Well, I have to have something. Okay, that piece of skin that you could, I don't know, clean yourself a bit easier without, then that is okay. It's not the requirement. Okay, the rabbinical people, they understand that, they know that, but they still think that the people need that. There's huge movement against genitalia mutilation, even in Israel. Baal is not Jew. Never been, never was. Jews, they call it pagan. Avodah Zarah, it is blasphemy. Well, that's the truth. Okay, you want to criticize religion? I'm all the way with you. Criticize, but why did they took out the Lilith story? Why did they took out the Book of Enoch? Okay, there are many things. Why did King David raped so many people? King Solomon raped so many people. It's like, why is that? It criticizes a lot. There's a satire called "The Jews Are Coming" in Hebrew, criticizing all of that. Okay, but you also need to know what we criticize. Okay. This is not Jewish. It never was. I know that there are many people that wearing all the clothes of there's Justus Feynman said there's cult-like sciences, which is all of the sciences. Unfortunately, I can tell you as an academic that took a break from academia for that reason. And it was for that reason. Okay. I was so privileged where I was, that people appreciate me so much so that usually when a person is, having a Me Too case or this or that, but they say, yeah, it's because they didn't do well academically, they did that. But he says she's very smart, she's very intelligent, but the way she behaves. I'm like, uh-huh. My etiquette does not conform to your pedo codes. Okay? And this, I do not consent to that. So, when Peter got Kanye, then he defended Deming. He had the face of a child that was going to be done to him. That's why he defended Deming. And holders, of course, because that's what it entails. That's what you see coming out with the truth. If you don't understand the term got Kanye, then you see what Kanye was before. He exposed what he knew. So he said the Jews, because that's what he knew. It's not Jewish. Baal is not Jewish. Never been. It's kind of like the Antichrist to Judaism. And so, but then he got Kanye. There's a case that they got him to like fucking porn and stuff like that because he exposed, because he whistleblowed. You need to free Kanye. Yeah. And that takes more than astrology. That takes a certain approach, okay, for to life, and setting intentions. Yes, you can pay attention to the astrological transits, but for you will come up what will need to come up. Okay? When I started to work with Tema Mundi, even before it got to me, just on the order, the first thing, Opus Dei, Magnum Opus Dei, M. I love a lot of it, all the Masons, all the degree, but the 3rd degree, all the Masons. Oh my God, they did people slavery? That's the Masons? That's like the Enlightenment and shit? All of the people like the Feynman, the this, the that, the JFK, the Peter? Yeah, Peter. Oh, damn. That's oh shit. How big is giant? It's global. And you get to know the symbolisms, and now you understand. You get to look at WikiLeaks. So. Understand. Well, you follow the money. Oh, that's the Jews. That's the Baal is not Jewish. But in any way, they cut dividends to the Vatican. But the Vatican, the Christians, no, they have a Lucifer. Actually, they have the occult symbolism. So they created for Lucifer like a controlled opposition that they cut dividends from. And then what did they tell Julian Assange to do on WikiLeaks? Here is a document where the Pope wants all these orders away from the church. Okay? And it's a document. It's a document. It's a document. It's a document. It has to be a document. You have to. This was done scientifically, and there is a document that says that. Sometimes there are documents. Yes, of course, there are documents. Netherlands was a case of whistleblower in Netherlands. I don't remember what it was, but they dismantled him because they said, we want to know what this spy, how far information they got. So they dismantled the whistleblower. So you understand, there's a little bit of intricacy to that. And the shape of kittens when they... This is like a cartoon. I'm just watching a cartoon right now. Oh my god. This is literally a cartoon. Oh my god, that is so cute. It's just so cute. I can't even. Anyway, so I think we got deep enough to the rabbit hole for this episode. I think you got to understand why you need more than astrology to delve down this rabbit hole. And yet, when you know, then you see things. I knew that I'm going to talk about Monarch. I didn't know that Monarch was Alice in Wonderland. I didn't know that Alice in Wonderland was the rabbit hole. I didn't know that was MK Ultra. I didn't know that I was Mason. I didn't know that the first degree Mason, you have to go naked and blindfolded and trust the lodge. And when you ask why, they tell you because you are a free man and it shows you're not a slave. Okay? I didn't know these things. Of course, astrology, you can find what planetary skies show this, but you have to know that this exists. That's the Mars, okay? God Ares, speak the truth, defend the truth, hear the truth, speak the truth, defend the truth, and create, move the energy around. So we tend to that, and this is good. It's common good for everyone. It's common good for, and we need to tend to that in a way that's common good for everyone. It's not squashing the victims, but also not ignoring the fact that these monsters are programmed the children that did not get to leave the cult. Simply put. So this is as Pluto is slowly approaching its ingress to Capricorn, where it would take a final round, take a final closing event, and then move to Aquarius. Okay. This is happening in the context of the bisextile with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, set in intention, okay, be on frequency, alignment, whether we call it Christ consciousness or love or this or that. And you can do it with any system of beliefs that you have, which is simple, okay? If you don't do human sacrifices and you don't do raping of children and you don't do things that are violent to will and consent, then it's very simple, okay? You're not going to get into these loopholes. And when you understand that when something is not on that frequency, then you can tend to, okay, I want access to that frequency and to preserve that frequency, and informations come to you. That's pretty much it. We're still right now at the 0 degree Aquarius. So sciences, global, but also tribal community, humanity at large, okay? The dark pit holes of humanity at large, like human sacrifice, like genital mutilation, like lack of will and consent, lack of inclusivity, all of these pitfalls, they come about. And the more we tend to them, with Pluto requires authenticity, the more we can understand that, transform in a way that is more aligned with our sovereignty, our autonomy, and our sense of connectedness to one another. Pluto in Aquarius was the time when J.P. Morgan was born. Now we know J.P. Morgan as the person who grew up the Bitcoin fraudsters. Okay. And I was supposed to be one of them when I was 17. I was going to this young entrepreneurship. They take me to IBM. I still remember that chocolate. That chocolate was very good. I love that chocolate. It was a genuine one. That was free and a lovely thing. But that was the only good thing about it, because when we thought about, we were trying to come up with things to help disabled people, to have this, to have that, which is said, I'm not going to give my patents away right away, right? And they talk with us about doubling the whole of the tooth pasta, so that people will double their expense on this product. I'm like, what's this rabbit hole? But I didn't have the language to say it. That was MK Ultra. And then for that, I go out of this because I don't like this. And I do something stupid, okay, some stupid idea. And this all turns into something really, reserved to myself, and so on. And very disappointed, because I thought I was going to do entrepreneurship and touch the hearts of people and give value to the world, and technological, Israel with Mercury on Aldebaran, and so on. But that didn't happen. And then I see the people that did stay in these programs were assassinated at the Bitcoin frauds. But darling, you grew up the Bitcoin frauds, and then you assassinate the people. You didn't let them go. There was no place for Shirley Youngblood. There was no place for entrepreneurship. There was no place for Ronald Bernard. I'm not even talking about me, okay? There was no place for Ronald Bernard outside the robber bank. Now that we know that it's robber bank, he didn't say it, he doesn't have to say it, he doesn't have to say it. Then it was robber bank, Peter was robber bank, Ruth was robber bank, Peter was robber bank, everybody was robber bank, Verlaus was robber bank. We understand that that's the robber bank. Okay? That's the robber bank. He didn't say it, he never approved it, never got it from him. Robber bank! So on. But it's not like the other banks are better. And so, okay? So they never had the funding that you need to experiment with money to make good things for people, unless you sacrifice so much that eventually you yourself want to commit suicide. That's how I got the funding for the degree. I say, give me debt or give me studies, because as for studies, I found refuge. People were going to studies like, it doesn't teach me a profession. You don't need university to teach you a profession. You need to go to the fucking place. You need to say, I want to do the job, I want to do this. Don't do it, because they'll recruit you to a fucking MK Ultra. Because there are no jobs. Very difficult to find, no jobs. You don't study profession in university, you know that. You study the philosophical, you study the beyond, okay, the great beyond, the interconnectivity of things. You take a refuge for you to bring in something into your practice, okay, but then you have to take away what you studied and start to practice. That's what I knew about entrepreneurship. And then there is Ronald Bernard, and then there is Robber Bank, and then there is MK Ultra, and then there is, why is Tachi and De Vries sitting on a tree? Because Tachi would have been in the descent for murder of children by a Supreme Court judge who snuffs these children himself instead of the judge. If he didn't vouch, and if Peter starts singing and will help a state witness, he could start singing on damning, even if it exposes himself. Who knows what elder would come out? Very simple. I know, it's just deeper down the rabbit hole. Of course. There always is. But did they give people a chance to make money? To fund for themselves, to be self-sustainable, self-sufficient, without holocausts of crimes that were done to them and what they had to do to people. And you can imagine, I'm standing here, and you can imagine that I'm here in Israel after 7th October, after the Me Too, after when I didn't speak about the Me Too, I spoke about the code. With all of this corpus of knowledge of what is science, of what is intelligence, of what is the truth, of what is entrepreneurship. So the sword of Michael, Archangel Michael, can come cut over these lies. The sword of truth. And because I know what the truth is, then your pyramidal or extra pyramidal do not compile. And with the power of the truth, in the country that developed open dialogue approach to treat psychosis with no drugs, and Netherlands and United States were the country that developed housing first. You have death and concentration camps today in United States for Americans, not refugees, not this, not that, not people, not that. No, there is an excuse for Americans who didn't get to get housing even when they do the 9 to 5. They didn't stood up to the inflation. Why? Because they don't invest in child trafficking. Because they don't invest in perpetuating war. Your compound interest is a world war. And it's what they teach you to do. Because why? For the children. And when you know what is, everything that isn't fall like a tower of cards. I know what is healthy relationships. And it doesn't compile because people were programmed so that they can barely have good intimacy, sexual relationships, communication with the partner, man or woman, doesn't matter. Same sex, not same sex, doesn't matter. Monogamous, not monogamous, doesn't matter. Have fulfilling life, fulfilling relations. Why? Because they want you starved. Because when you're starved, then they can program you and then they can get information out of you. But they can extort you. Here, look at this chart, look at this chart. Yes, I look at this chart. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to dismantle the praxis of political assassination, because these are the extorted children from all sides of the equation. All of them, the expendable children grown. That cult of extortion is not economy. It never was. And although it does not. Baal, never been Jewish. I've never been Jewish. I'm a secular person. But Baal, never been Jewish. It's not Jewish. Genital mutilation, it's not Jewish. Lucifer is Venus. Stay connected tantrically to your pleasure, to your senses, Taurus. Balance between the spirit and matter is still Taurus. Appreciate of the beauty that you see in the world to balance your nervous system, Libra. And you get intuition. You stay in your body, and this is a healthy way to get intuition, not the inverted version. And you know what Lucifer will do. I'll tell you what Lucifer will do. I wanted to write a story about this. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to undo for the people that practice human sacrifice, because the utmost Luciferian suffering is that you did all that and you're still gone. And that's my prediction for Pluto in Satan's sign. And this enlightenment you can reach also being an atheist. So the swastika is God Apollo, that had, you can worship God Apollo as this, that, or he says removal of tyranny. The essence is to abolish expandable children. The essence is to abolish for these malpractices. The essence is to abolish putting people to trauma, also in the name of shamanism, the two spirit. No, taking a person, raping them, torturing them, extorting them, doing the closest you can to electrocuting them or electrocuting them in places where you have the technology, and then saying this will be a great healer. Yes, my psychologist, they probably did that to him. I think there was a bit of a problem with the healing process. They started at the tribal society. There is two spirit. Accept the two spirit. Yes, have conversations. Information that comes to you when you connect it with your body. It's natural. It's natural. Okay? People worship in Sedna, abolish incest. That's the Sedna story. Allow a child to have childhood, and for also women to be free within relationship. Then you will have good fishing and you would have good hunting. This is the Sedna story. That's the Sedna story. This is Sedna reverence, Sedna worship. Why Sedna goddess of partnership when you ask for a good relationship? Because in good partnership you're supposed to be free, and in good partnership you're supposed to have respect, and in good partnership you're supposed to be accommodated for, and you're supposed to have willing consent. This is everything Sedna stands for. It's not enough to put the comb out there. You can put the comb out there, but you will get the clues. And the Inuits that practice that, and I give great reverence to the Inuits that talk about ancestral relationships before colonialism and understand the connection, are the reason that I'm able to speak here, because I am, as astrologer, this Sedna reverence, and of course with Inuit reverence, and I got to know it from Inuit, and I share a bit information, not for Inuit society, but because we all are Inuit, and we all still caught up in this. And when I see Bedouin men die by the hundreds, not because of war, before the war, because first the children, the women died, the girls died, they were murdered because they didn't want to marry, and they're buried in the sands here. Then nothing. Then women died murdered because they didn't obey the husband. She's bad, she's this, she's that, she's that. Then men died by the hundreds. Nobody could do it. It's not, nobody else was killing them. They were killing themselves. I asked Bedouin men, I say, you, maybe there are infiltrators for your tribe that they're doing this problem. I said, no, darling, it's all the women and the children. All the women and the children. I stay out of this. I go to the city every day because I cannot. And the village they live is like city. It could be such a beautiful place. Our brothers, the people that were there with generation of, I don't know, before my lineage even came to this Eretz Israel Palestine place. Within Israel, serving in the army, Israel, everything. Whenever there were bombings, always the Bedouin villages. Now, someone, this is not making sense. And you say it does, because they say we're the traitors. But you're here because you didn't have the money to live in 1948. Mm-hmm. Still, when we go to Gaza, they give us double the price. Now we traitors. Those are sadness stories. That's how later you get those colonialists and those apartheid and those things. You have bloodline segregation. It will bloom into apartheid. That's the thing. That's holistic medicine. You don't need to go through I don't know what to get there. You just need to observe. And you need to have the people that can connect you with the information and the bravery to speak. That eliminates world wars and nuclear wars and destruction of the planet and the fumbling with the fabric of the galaxy. And alleviates for the frequencies of those torture, those things, so people can go back to life. Yes, I see we've been through sun. Safe. And 22, I released this right now. So this is in reverence of the people I learned from. But whatever they did in their lives, the good and the bad, and not in any other undertone, because we need to learn and we need to change.